here with John Gardner today, our subject matter specialist. John, thank you for hosting this session and sharing your knowledge with us. I will launch a very quick poll. Please help us about replying this poll. This will also help us to guide our session, about a little bit more about you all. I will be here helping in the chat. John, have a great session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you all for joining us here for the Future Proofing Your Network with Hyperfabric. Again, my name is John Gardner at Sunset Learning Institute. Just a little bit about me. I specialize in data center networking on the Compute Nexus ACI side. Today, what we'd like to do is, speaking of fabrics, let me go ahead and jump to the next slide here. First thing I'd like to do is I would like to talk about just a brief introduction of what Cisco Nexus Hyperfabric is. Then what we want to do is make sure that we position this correctly, because use cases and selling this to the right customers is extremely important. Then I'm going to do a little technical overview where we talk about what's the equipment, what's the connections, then the deployment. So how is this, a very easy day zero touch deployment? I also have some operations and automation, mainly some automation stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on underneath the hood that we want to talk about. And then our licensing structure. So the first thing that I want to do is let's go ahead and jump into what is the Cisco Nexus Hyperfabric. The first thing to note here, folks, is one of the challenges today is when we go to deploy a fabric, the most important thing is scaling it or sizing it and then scaling it, right? Knowing what equipment we need, what connections that are required. That is one of the things that we are definitely trying to resolve here. By the way, we have this neat thing I'll talk about called Blueprint that allows us to literally build this fabric virtually, where we can design this fabric in a beautiful web interface. And by the way, I do want to bring this up here really quick. One of the things that I do want to mention, and if you open up your chat window, if you do have dCloud access, I'm going to go ahead and pop this in here. So if you have dCloud access, we do have a streamlined data center networking with the Cisco Nexus Hyperfabric. By the way, when you click view, what that's going to do is that's going to take you here. It is going to require a Cisco ID, but then you're going to get this interface. And when you click open Nexus Hyperfabric, it actually brings us here to Blueprint. So I'm going to be demoing this in just a moment. Well, in a couple of minutes. But with that being said, that is one of the first things that's incredibly important to understand about Hyperfabric is this is really about designing and then ordering the correct equipment, right? So what we're trying to do is create a data center network fabric as a service, easy enough for just IT generalists, right? This isn't, if we go back to application-centric infrastructure, right? Software-defined networking, there's so many tools and features. It's a very feature-rich kind of solution where we can create application network profiles, deploy the application network profiles onto the fabric, and control the communication for those applications. This is more of let's get anywhere between 1 and 50 switches deployed very rapidly by first designing it, then ordering it. What the outcome is when we do the deployment, we want this to be a purpose-built vertical stack. In other words, we want you to start small and then start building out. Now, with that said, next slide here. One of the things that's been very prevalent on the Cisco side is cloud-based controllers. So right now, one of the big ones, you may have heard of Intersight. Intersight allows us to connect down to on-prem equipment and configure it. Now, all of this is really based on like JSON communication from the cloud down to the devices. What's incredibly important from a network perspective is A, we've got scalability. I want to be able to touch any of these devices, no matter where they're at, globally distributed. And by the way, this is built to be a multi-tenant environment. Uh, but with that being said, it can be a single fabric. It can absolutely be a single fabric. Again, this is all about using the cloud controller to design, plan, control, upgrade, and monitor the fabrics. Now, I am going to be talking about this stuff a little bit more in depth, but also the API access. Just a quick sidestep here, folks. So right now, Cisco's been working for a little while now, actually, with the Open Initiative. If you're not familiar, go ahead and do a quick Google on like OpenStack, OpenShift, Open Daylight. The point here, folks, is that we want to create a non-proprietary API that can not only access or talk to our equipment, but third-party equipment moving forward. So this cloud controller is built, purpose built to be able to talk to our cloud, or I'm sorry, our cloud managed devices, which is the 6000 series. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do, let me bring this up here really quick. I do have a data sheet with essentially everything that you're looking for because I don't have, we don't have time to get into a technical deep dive, but I wanted to make sure you at least got some virtual swag. We left you with something. The Cloud Managed 6000 series. This is, again, it's purpose built, bootstrapped from the cloud. Very similar to our Meraki installations where we plug it in, the dashboard already has it registered, and we can push configuration down to it. Again, I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later. Now, what it's doing is it's building this classic Klaus architecture, spine leaf architecture. That's another thing that I'm going to show you in Blueprint, where you're going to select your spines, select your leaves. This can go all the way up to 40 gig, or I'm sorry, 4 gig. We're supporting the 10 and 25 classic connections, but clearly we want you on that 100 and 400 gig host ports. This is also built on a VXLAN architecture. So when we talk through this fabric, what we're doing is we're talking between what we call VTEPs or virtual tunnel endpoints. If you're not familiar with that, it's a very, very simple idea that from port to port, we want to make sure that it's secure and it's segmented. So we're creating a VXLAN EVPN connection. So that's Ethernet virtual private network, virtual extensible LAN through this fabric. This is going to provide that multi-tenancy inside the fabric to keep that data separate. By the way, we can also instantiate things like layer 2, classic VLANs. And yes, we are supporting IPv6 routing. Now, that being said, this is a full mesh spine and leaf fabric. This is incredibly important. If you're not familiar, what it allows us to do is not only have redundancy, but load balancing. As you can see from this device, I could go through either one of these spines down to a destination VTEP or virtual tunnel endpoint. Another thing that is incredibly important, Cisco's been doing this new initiative that I absolutely love, customer experience, step-by-step deployment tasks. We're gonna hold your hand, right? We're not gonna just throw something at you and say good luck, right? We want to walk you through this deployment. By the way, registration and cabling. This is going to be a piece where once we get the licensing pushed out, we want to register our devices, and then you're just simply going to cable it, plug it in, and start working through that cloud controller. Now, another thing that Cisco's been working on is NVIDIA partnership. Now, again, with some of our compute options here, by the way, we've been working with NVIDIA for quite some time, and we've been working with their GPUs, mainly the A100s. Those are starting to end of life. So Blackwell is on the horizon. Again, I don't have much time to talk about that, so if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and right here, let me go ahead and link you to the Blackwell GPU content here. Make sure you come away with a bunch of information today. So that Blackwell GPU, this is going to be a purpose-built GPU specifically for artificial intelligence, large language models, and machine learning. So this really, the NVIDIA product line is focused on artificial intelligence. Excuse me. One moment. Okay, I got to learn how to walk and talk apparently at the same time. So the graphical processing unit, this is what we're used to seeing. Now, NVIDIA, we're coming out with the NVAI-E, which is the NVIDIA Artificial Intelligence for Enterprise. What we're seeing here is this new concept of a DPU, which is a data processing unit. I call it a deep learning processing unit, but that's just me. It's really there for deep learning. And another thing is Vast Storage. We partnered with Vast to build a storage solution for your compute nodes that are going to be utilizing GPU, DPU, and Vast Storage. Now, one thing that I do want to throw out there is that we do have this newer solution called an AI pod that's coming out, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. What we're doing is we're bringing all of these AI-enabled solutions together, right? And so, yeah, we're looking for high performance Ethernet between the storage and the servers. We also want AI native operational model. So again, this is all about large language models and deep learning. Now, with that being said, the Cisco Hyperfabric is not the only AI solution that Cisco is geared to support this year. So on the left-hand side, you'll see we've got, your turnkey AI pod right here for Hyperfabric. This is going to be a Hyperfabric cluster. What we're doing is we're clustering our computes together. Again, we're looking at 400 gig between those compute nodes. This is going to be a greenfield deployment only. So a lot of people are asking, so how do I upgrade? How do I migrate? This is going to be a greenfield deployment. One moment. Sorry about that, folks. Let me take a sip of water here. It's very dry here in Indiana, so I do apologize. We also have, whenever you get a chance, go ahead and take a look at this. We have the 9000 series with the Nexus dashboard. We also have the Cisco 8000 series with bring your own management and a customizable solution. Another thing that I wanted to throw out here is our M8 solution. So if you have not seen the 885 M8 rack, here it is, the C885 M8. This is another solution that's going to be working in conjunction. We want to bring that NVIDIA GPU solution with our M8 CPU processor PCI Gen 5 solution to market. So I want to make sure that you had that content at your fingertips. Now, with that being said, let's talk about some positioning here. So the first thing is, right now we're looking at 750 million new applications hitting by 2025, right? This year. Another thing is that cloud costs are going up 20%. What we want to do is we want to remove some of the complexity as we start to grow. So we're seeing 56% faster operations and acceleration here for infrastructure and applications for deploying. right? What we're trying to do is make sure that you're deploying faster. That's what it comes down to. We want to look at sustainability. So we want to use less power. Right now, what we're doing is we're seeing larger, higher voltage system fans inside of our units that if we spin those up at a lower RPM, we're actually receiving like almost twice the effective cooling with anywhere between 20 and 30% less power utilization, which is absolutely phenomenal. If you have not seen that, there's you can look up zone-based cooling. But the big thing here is the AI workloads. This has clearly been on top of mind for a while. So with that being said, we're looking at 117 million terabytes of data that's going to be processed. We clearly need a newer network, compute, and storage solution. Another thing is, holy cow, attack surfaces are rising, 125% rise. And an attack surface, it just means what's open that an attacker can take advantage of. So, with that being said, we're rapidly adopting cloud management networking, 35% growth with over 4 million networks managed here in 2025. And so this is going to look like 35% increased growth from 2023 to 2030. And some of the key design points here, please keep in mind, folks, this is, again, for IT generalists. This is not for hardcore, like application-centric infrastructure, spine leaf people like me. This is what we want to do is create a very easy, simple operational model. That is one of the things that we want to keep in mind when we talk about Hyperfabric. Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. We also, with network automation, again, with this open shift and open daylight initiative, we want to make sure that everybody has the ability to understand how our automation is operating and create a cloud infrastructure as a service design. This is an abstraction model. If you haven't heard the term pizza box, what we'd like to see is people shift their mindset to say, this is just equipment that we're installing, and we don't care what it looks like underneath the hood. We're just simply running our applications across it. The abstraction model essentially underlay, overlay. All we care about from an application perspective is that overlay. Building the fabric should be simple and easy and scalable. Now, I'm going to jump down here. This is a controller-based system. It's a cloud-based system. The Hyperfabric is designed to leave legacy features behind. In other words, what we want to do is build a new architecture moving forward in the future that, again, is simple to design and deploy. Now, that API connection, this is going to be I don't want to say the hinge pin, but it is bringing everything together. Your SaaS controller, your data center fabric, remote fabrics, multiple customer environments in a multi-tenant environment, and of course, that artificial intelligence, machine learning, and high performance computing. Now with the technical overview. Okay, we're looking good on time. So the technical overview is we have two versions here. We've got the 6100 32D. This is going to be our spine. This is going to live up top. This is what's going to be transmitting the majority of the data. Our leaf or edge, this is where our host ports are going to live. By the way, we have a couple of new port types, host and fabric. Those are the two we care about the most. The host ports are going to be going downstream anywhere between 10, 25, 50 gig. The fabric ports are what are connecting the leaf and the spines. Just like previous designs, we are not plugging the leaves into each other. We're not plugging the spines into each other. We're plugging the leaf into the spine. That is going to be your fabric port. And as you'll see later, we can simply design and deploy the host and fabric ports through our fabric controller in a cinch. Now the cabling, we are going to be using a quad, small form factor pluggable transceiver. So this is going to give you up to 400 gig of data rate. We also note that we do have our breakouts. So we are supporting that 4x10, 4x25, and higher breakout options downstream and upstream. Now the deployment and configuration. This is what I wanted to spend a little bit of time on. So when we look at deployments, especially Greenfield, when we plan this out, day 0 and day 1 are very, very important to me. In day 0, traditionally, we're going to build uh, uh, our bill of materials and our statement of work and start deploying our initial configuration. This is where we're racking and stacking, powering everything on. And the biggest thing is we're starting to build pods or a fabric. There is a difference between fabric and pod. Again, this is not a technical deep dive, but essentially what you're doing is you're building a fabric with the leaf spines for the applications to go across. You can also build out a multi-pod design if you would like. But with that being said, the deployment, this is usually where I'm connecting to every device using SSH, or I'm using the a controller to start building out my configuration. One of the things that's really nice about this fabric lifecycle is that this is a zero-touch switch onboarding. During the deployment, what's really important for me is to be able to just plug in a switch and have that fabric identified immediately. That's a beautiful thing, right? That way I don't have to configure lags or uplinks or trunks. I just simply insert this switch in a zero-touch deployment into the fabric. We also, again, we have that Helping Hands app. What this is going to do, it's going to walk you through cabling everything up. Like I said, we don't want to leave you, on your own. We want you to feel comfortable installing and deploying these switches. Now, day 2 operations. This is what's been changing a lot over the last few years. We want to make sure that moving forward, we are not being dependent on-site, on-prem controllers that can only manage what is in that local segment or on that local site. Utilizing this cloud controller, this is going to give you the ability, high visibility into everything. The configuration of the fabric, uh, how are the applications moving, right? Do I have any problems? Now, the other thing is we can also have this point towards an alerting or ticketing dashboard. Very similar to call home, right? If we see a problem in the fabric, we want to be able to create a ticket and have your people jump on it as soon as possible. Reporting and forecasting. Day end. This is where the life cycle starts over again, where we take a look at what the fabric is doing. Do we have enough capacity? And do we require more switches, more uplinks, more bandwidth? Then what we can do is during our redeployment, when we're getting ready to start that life cycle all over again, we're going to hold your hand through this designer UI that's going to guide you through creating or updating your pods, creating new pods or updating them for the future. Now, with that being said, we do have this thing called blueprint. This is where it all starts. The point here is that we are going to select how many spines and leaves we think we need. And then you're going to add that fabric. By the way, let me go back here. If you remember this this dCloud demo here. If we go to the Nexus Hyperfabric blueprint, what you're doing is you're adding a new fabric, and this does take a minute, but it's been a little slow this morning, but you can build your fabric. So I just created 2 spines, 2 leaves. All you have to do is click Add New Fabric, and this is what we're seeing here on the slide. You can give this a name and a description, and then we can select how many spines we would like. We can look at what type of airflow you want. We also have our product IDs here for your power supplies. So you can select AC or DC options. Then our leaves, same thing. Do we want the 32D or the 60 LD4? I'm going to add 2 of the 6132Ds. And so now all I have to do is click Save Fabric. And then hopefully hey, there we go. Excellent. Popped right up for me. Now what I can do is I can select the cabling that I would like between these devices. As you can see, very simple to create essentially a bill of materials. I'm just going to select the top one, and now I can click Save. And hopefully, hey, there we go. It works. Yay. Now, again, what I can do is I can calculate a bill of materials. This is where the design and deployment piece has been updated so that it makes it easier for you to scope out and purchase your devices. By the way, you can also export this as a CSV for your own documentation. I can also go to the summary here. Inside of the summary, this is showing you your leaves and spines. I don't have any devices connected. I haven't claimed any devices yet, which is going to be the next step after we get the equipment. Once this equipment drops, we want to make sure that you claim each one of these devices so that they can start reporting downstream detected devices. Again, yeah, I don't have anything right now, but if we scroll down here, we can see now the devices, port configurations, and link status, alerting, the different fabric connections, and then this one's kind of neat. This is anything that you're seeing layer 2 or layer 3 that we were detecting. And then we also have cloud connectivity. And again, I do apologize. This is just a simple demo. I don't have anything connected. So we can also see any LL or link layer discovery protocol devices, again, that we've learned downstream. We also have a lot more stuff like our VLAN memberships. This is where we can add VLANs to create a logical network and attach it to these switches and then to a port. Very simple, right? This used to take me a long time to go SSH, get into config mode, then pop down the VLAN configuration. Now it's simply 3 clicks. We also have spanning tree. Now, right now, again, I don't have any spanning tree, but you can enable this if you would like. Please keep in mind that what we would like to see is you folks using VXLAN, which does not require spanning tree. But if you would like to run in a more classic mode, we do support that. How's about some quality of service? Support channeling. How's about some BGP peers, right? Now, one of the things that I mentioned earlier today was we've got this underlay overlay or this abstraction model. Instead of us worrying so much about the physical hardware, what I want to worry about is this logical networking. The logical networking is the logical paths that we're going to be using to transport the traffic. We've got 2 different types. You're going to essentially have a layer 2 logical network and a layer 3. The layer 2 is for host-to-host communication. Layer 3 is for outside communication. We simplified it. Again, it's all about simplifying this configuration. So, by the way, if you do have a Cisco account, you absolutely can spin up this demo and run through it. Let me make sure. Actually, yeah, you should already have it. Okay. So that's all the stuff that we're seeing here with Fabric Blueprint. Another thing is software configuration, firmware updates, infrastructure bundle updates, right? Fabric Blueprint design can be done, as you can see here, without a switch claimed and bound. That's what I did. Now, it would be really nice to have some switches, but I don't have any as of yet. Still waiting for them to get there. So that's the whole thing about our day zero blueprint designer. We're really just trying to build a bill of materials so that it's more accurate moving forward. Also, adding to that bill of materials later for scalability is going to be another very important piece. And I'm sorry, I was supposed to have that slide earlier. My apologies there. So the next thing is when you're ready and we've got our equipment, those switches hit the docks. Let's go ahead and attach them. And keep in mind, we need to be able to hit hyperfabric.cisco.com with port 443. This is another thing. Make sure your DNS is updated. Make sure that the management ports of these devices are able to get out and resolve hyperfabric.cisco.com port 443. This is going to allow them to check in and then essentially download their configuration. We call it a plug and play zero touch deployment. All we're doing is plugging this in. Reminds me of power on auto provisioning from back in the day. Another thing is the live fabric view. Notice we saw this just a couple of minutes ago, but you can see, for instance, the IP and MAC addresses of things that are directly attached to the network. This is extremely important for identifying issues and troubleshooting location information and application issues. Now, the next thing is once you start plugging all these switches in, we are utilizing LLDP on the fabric side to start identifying neighbor adjacencies. And what's beautiful is it starts to self-assemble the fabric. You know what that means for you? No more really confusing trunk configurations between switches, right? All you do is you plug it in and it says, oh, great, you're my neighbor. Let me go ahead and check in with you. Now, there's clearly more going on there, but we can self-assemble that fabric and then start adding things like layer 3 outbound connections inside of our fabric. Now, the port details. I did want to show you this. So we can create a port configuration and then deploy that. And again, VLAN membership, port connections, and port configurations all are underneath the configuration piece. By the way, this is a specific leaf that I drilled down into. Everything's point and click. Here is our layer 2 logical topology. So just as I mentioned earlier, we can create that standard or that classic layer 2 VLAN topology if we would like, but we'd really like you to leverage that EVP and VXLAN fabric in between the leaf switches, or again, our VTEPs. And so, as I showed you earlier, you can click to add a VLAN membership, and you're simply attaching it to a VLAN tag to a port. And yes, we can add more than one. This is just an example. And coming up on time here. So operations and automation. This is another really big piece. So Cisco, again, has been working with the Open Initiative for a while. And underneath the hood, we're running what's called a RESTful API, Representative State Transfer Application Programmable Interface. And so what you're doing is traditionally you would generate just a simple token. What we're doing now, this bearer token, That's actually a JSON web token. Now, again, this isn't a deep dive into programmability, but one of the things that's important to remember is JSON. It's a JavaScript object notation programmatic language. By utilizing this and moving away from some of our classic XML APIs, this gives us more ability to, as an example, let's say that I create a VLAN object. The name of that object is just a property of the object. It's not tied, it's not strict and rigid. So if I change it, it breaks something. No, no, no. This object notation allows me to essentially change the name of anything at any time, which is another beautiful thing. Now, tokens. This is going to be on a per user basis. So you're going to generate a token. You're going to authenticate. We also do have, we say a rate limiting, but it's more like a time limitation, transit limitation. And we can see here that can be valid for a month, 2 years. Now, with that said, if you are not familiar with programming, please check out Cisco's DevNet, developer.cisco.com. Let me go ahead and pop that in here. Okay, developer.cisco.com. And so the DevNet, really nice. We've got a sandbox, and we do support Postman. Postman is a free tool that you can download if you are on the DevOps side of the house. I've been using Postman for a long time. I absolutely love it. It's very simple to use, and it allows us to delete, let's say, switches. For instance, I can create a script that just simply says, unbind that bound switch from a chassis. Okay? Or, excuse me, I can use the put method to bind the switch. So we've got our standard get put, post, and deletes. You can even delete an entire fabric using Postman from your laptop. You just create a script. You can grab that again. You can grab a sample from the developer.cisco.com from the DevNet. And the last thing here, licensing. So with licensing, what we're doing is we are essentially licensing the devices and the software. That, and actually, if we get in here, where'd that go? Right here are the subscription tiers. And so I'm not going to go through every single one, but software upgrades, cloud controller, right? These are all things with the essentials or premier subscription. We have two tiers there. And so the essentials is going to give you a lot of stuff to get you going, right? We're going to be able to build you a fabric with the essentials tier. I want to make that very, very clear. The premier tier is really focused towards artificial intelligence, machine learning, and automation and orchestration. So with that being said, I believe that is my 45 minutes. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Also, moving forward here, we are building out a Hyperfabric workshop. So if you get some time, go ahead and reach out to Sunset Learning for more information on our Hyperfabric workshop. And actually, give me one moment here. In the link or in the chat window, we linked our course outline for our Hyperfabric course. So everyone, thank you very much. I apologize about my voice, but I do appreciate you being here, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present this content.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you all for joining. And any doubts, any requests, please send us an email. Have a great weekend, y'all.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.